AITA for following my mom's advice about my breastfeeding wife. My wife gave birth recently. She's been trying to breastfeed. Our baby doesn't like formula and can't latch onto the silicone nipple properly. But she has a hard time because she isn't producing enough milk. My mom, who was a midwife, said it was because of stress and that my wife was too stressed out to make enough breast milk. The doctor and the lactation consultant confirmed that stress does impact the flow of milk. My wife's work has been pinging us even though she has 6 months of maternity leave. My mom moved in with us to help with the baby. My wife's family lives too far to be anything but moral support. She's been making my wife food. Stuff that helps with milk production. Making my wife rest. Making sure she gets enough sleep. My mom suggests my wife lie in a quiet, dim room, and I or my mom would rub her feet or her shoulders or would stroke her hair. Both these things soothe my wife and just let her feel relaxed. This has actually worked the best. The important part is to start the process before the baby is hungry. My wife has an incredibly irritating childhood friend, Becky. Becky is the worst type of soul-sucking person. She makes a shitty problem and runs to my wife to fix it. My wife is reluctant to stand up to Becky because Becky was the only girl who didn't make fun of her in their childhood. That's because she treats my wife like her personal servant. On Sunday, Becky came over because the man she was hooking up dumped her, and plus she spent all her money on booze and weed and couldn't afford rent for the month, which she was already late on. She expected me to calm my wife down so that she could fix her problems. I said no and told her to leave. Because my wife was breastfeeding, she insisted and tried to sneak past me and enter our house. I told her that my wife was breastfeeding and that she could not be disturbed. As per my mom's suggestions, I told her that she would stress out my wife with her problems, and if she wanted to come in she couldn't talk about them at all. She called me controlling and a mama's boy, and friends of my wife later texted me calling me an asshole. My wife says she doesn't care that I told her to leave, but said I could be gentler about her problems. NTA. I thought this was going to go towards you trying to control your wife, as so many posts on AITA go. I'm so glad that isn't the case. It doesn't seem like your mother is there lording over the house and forcing your wife to do X, but that she is a professional giving good advice and ideas, that both you and your wife chose to follow them and they seem to be helping. Your wife has enough worries and stress right now to be bothered by some self-centered user. If she's okay with what you did, who cares what Becky thinks? I mean, NTA. Obviously. And also, do you think your mom would like to adopt me? She sounds great lol. NTA. We all know what kind of friend Becky is. She's there to use your wife financially and emotionally. This is a trying time for any new mother and parent. I definitely think your wife needs to really sit down with you and have a conversation about this so-called friend. She's not actually there for your wife. Of course, your wife's health comes first. It might not be best to have a difficult conversation right away, but it seems like you and your wife will need to discuss. Becky, I really do think your mom in this case is not overstepping. Unlike so many other moms on this site and subreddit, I think she actually has some good advice. You're doing right by your wife, and that's what's important. NTA. Don't know what I'm going to do with my pitchfork now though, because that is not how I expected the story to go. NTA. You just sound like a good partner looking out for your wife and baby. Maybe you could have gone easier. IDK. That Becky woman sounded pretty pushy. As a woman who recently had supply issues due to stress, majorly NTA. Good for you for looking out for your wife, especially since it seems like she wants to breastfeed and you're supporting this choice of hers. NTA. It sounds like Becky has brainwashed your wife into thinking what she said at the end of the post. Your wife had breastfeeding problems that can also affect the baby, since it doesn't like formula. And Becky decides to step over that and instead throw her pity party all over your house. Also, your wife's response at the end seems like post-pregnancy stress cause YK. She just had a baby. Try to talk it out with her and explain that Becky is stepping all over her boundaries. NTA. I think you did the right thing keeping a toxic person away from your already stressed wife. NTA. Becky is a horrible friend who is an energy sucker. Toxic friends like her should just stay away. Also, baby may sense she is a bad person and cry when she is around him. Good for your wide not giving up on BF. I had 3 kids and my oldest I hurt to bad and quit. Info. How did she try to sneak past you? Did she do a, "Hey, what's that over there" type distraction? NTA. Becky is quite an awe. NTA. Because your wife basically supports what you did. You have no obligation to Becky in all of this. But you have a lot of obligation to support your wife's choices, not your mother's choices about your wife. This time, they didn't conflict. But you need to be prepared to let your wife make the calls herself about how she wants to handle things. Not just try to protect her whether or not she wants to be protected. This time, she was okay with it. Next time, she might not be. I'm gonna say NTA because of your wife's reaction. Becky came over unannounced because she needed help. And it sounds like that's the only reason she ever comes over. And you told her to leave because your wife was busy. I also produced very little breast milk. I didn't know the reason until I had breast imaging done. I had very few milk ducts. Just saying. It's not always stress. Sometimes it's biological. You're NTA. Nor is your wife. Becky is Ta. She insisted and tried to sneak past me and enter our house. This right here is the point where it became free game to tell Becky whatever you want. That's a bitch move. And she needs to chill out. Sounds like Becky is a useless individual who is only going to continue to drag down your wife's life. She needs to be an adult. Especially now that she's a mom. And cut Becky out of her life. That's not a good person to have around anyone. Let alone a baby. Friends of my wife later texted me calling me an asshole. Those aren't friends. Those are additional losers your wife is friends with. They weren't even there. And for them to involve themselves in something they weren't a part of is childish and embarrassing. And they too should be removed from your wife's life. Said I could be gentler about her problems. While you do have to respect your wife's wishes, you don't have to follow them. It was your situation to control. And you controlled it. NTA. Congratulations on your new baby. Your mom is correct. I was not able to breastfeed due to my stressful life. Becky sounds toxic. I would let her know she is not welcome at the house and I would block her phone number. Good luck. Hope things get better for your wife. NTA. This is a beautiful setting you guys have come up with. There's only 4 people who matter in this. The mom, the baby, and whomever she decides to share it with. Which is you and your mom. You're not controlling. You're going with not only your mom's expertise, but with what your wife is comfortable with. Your wife is a saint. NTA. It's wonderful that you're supporting your wife through a stressful, but amazing time. NTA. You're doing exactly what your wife and child need. Hold strong and have your wife follow up with a text to Becky letting her know she can't do drop-ins now because of feeding schedules. NTA. You are protecting your wife. And if she agreed, then that's all that matters. The other friends only got Becky's story and I'm sure she made herself out to be a victim.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epic Haircast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.